One decade ends, another begins. The 2010s provided some monumental shifts in filmmaking and the industry as a whole, with the explosion of IP-driven blockbusters and cinematic universes, while the floodgates were blown wide open in allowing more voices a fair and equal opportunity to share their stories with the world. Now, condensing an entire decade into a 10-point list is no small feat, and I can't stress enough that this list is purely subjective based on my own preferences and experiences with each of the films that I'm about to talk about. With this list, I'm focusing on the films that have made a significant impact on my life over this decade, whether they provided a new way to look at the world or introduced a story and characters that deeply resonated and connected with me. I believe that a film list like this can only be subjective, and trying to have an objective approach to so many films released over a decade runs the risk of missing any true gems that people may have missed out on. Plus, it adds a bit more personality to these lists, rather than just seeing the same movies recycled over and over on different lists. So while this list will be deeply subjective to my experiences over the 2010s, I would absolutely love to hear about your best films of the 2010s. So be sure to leave your lists in the comments section below. Without further ado, here are some honorable mentions. A Silent Voice, Blade Runner 2049, Get Out, Guardians of the Galaxy, It, The Nice Guys, The Raid 2, Red Dog, Upgrade, and War for the Planet of the Apes. Number 10, Mission Impossible Fallout. I absolutely adore this film. I know many people have a soft spot for Ghost Protocol, however, Mission Impossible Fallout just combined everything that the Mission Impossible franchise had been known for up to that point, and excelled in every possible way. From the absolutely mind-blowing stunts and chase sequences, the edge of your seat, race against time structure, and an incredibly personal, character-driven story exploring the physical and mental limits of Ethan Hunt that offers an introspective look into what motivates him to perform these insane feats. Everyone, from director Christopher McQuarrie, Tom Cruise, Henry Cavill, Rebecca Ferguson, composer Lorne Balfe, all excelled and delivered a monumental piece of filmmaking that will be looked at as an action filmmaking milestone in the years to come. Number 9, Looper. This film was really my first exposure to Rian Johnson as a filmmaker. After Looper came out, I would go back and discover Brick and Brothers Bloom, and with Breaking Bad a massive series at the time when Looper came out, I would eat up the episodes that he directed. Looper offered a time travel story that managed to effectively set up its world and characters, explore themes like failure, escaping your past, and also acts as a cautionary tale about the past repeating itself. Looper was the main reason that I was excited for Star Wars The Last Jedi, because I knew that with Rian Johnson directing, we'd get a wholly unique experience that we hadn't seen before. Looper never gets bogged down in over-explaining its time travel rules, instead focusing on its characters, with incredible performances from Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Emily Blunt, and of course Bruce Willis, in what may still be his best role from the 2010s. This is a great film that everyone should experience. Number 8, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I still can't believe that Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is the movie that exists. This is a film that for a time I would watch religiously. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is based on the beloved graphic novels from Brian Lee O'Malley and comes from director Edgar Wright, one of my favorite filmmakers. I adore the graphic novels, having read them repeatedly back when I was in high school. Watching the movie back then, Scott Pilgrim was this lovable goof who referenced video games and fought people with swords. And now coming back to it, you forget how much thought and care was packed into developing the script, layering it with clues, clever quotable dialogue, and information for events that would come into play later in the film, having Scott, Ramona, and Knives develop and evolve as people, trying to find themselves in the world, all the while packing the movie full of secrets and Easter eggs. Scott Pilgrim is also a masterclass in using your camera and framing for comedy, which few directors outside of Edgar Wright and Sam Raimi really take advantage of. On top of all this, the cast is incredible, from Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Chris Evans, Anna Kendrick, Brie Larson, Aubrey Plaza, Brandon Routh, and Jason Schwartzman. This movie is everything. If you've never seen Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, treat yourself to an absolute gem. Number 7, Inception. Christopher Nolan's film about dream thieves didn't connect with me initially. It took me a couple of watches to wrap my head around all the dream within a dream shenanigans, but as I aged over the decade, I gained an interest in lucid dreaming, which Nolan cites frequently when talking about Inception. And so over the years, I've gained a greater love and appreciation for Inception, and now it's my favorite Nolan film from the 2010s. Inception showcases Nolan's taste for grounded and impeccably constructed spectacle, with scenes like the hallway fight still absolutely mind-blowing. Nolan purposely never went too out there with surreal visual dreamscapes, at risk of losing the audience, and I've always believed that he made the right choice. However, despite all the big dream world building, Inception remains a deeply personal film of admitting to and overcoming grief. Dom Cobb's story is one that's deeply moving and emotional, bolstered by an incredible cast cast, and magical music from Hans Zimmer, with time still being a revelation. And that's all without mentioning that Inception culminates in one of the most hotly debated final shots in all cinema. Inception is a beautiful film that I will always look forward to rewatching. Number 6, Shin Godzilla. If you followed this channel for a while, you probably know that I'm a big Godzilla fan. So when I heard that Toho was rebooting the Japanese series after a long hiatus, I got pretty excited. Then, when it was revealed that Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi of Neon Genesis Evangelion fame, my all-time favorite anime, would be directing this entry, well, my excitement level was just sky high. I expected a solid Godzilla film, but I had no idea that Shin Godzilla would be as incredible as it ended up being, masterfully reimagining Godzilla's origin from the original 1954 film through a modern lens. While the original Godzilla film acted as Japan's response to the atomic attacks on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Shin Godzilla uses the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster and the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami as inspiration, making Godzilla a villain once again who morphs and evolves over time. Shin Godzilla simply contains some of the greatest Godzilla moments in film history, with the middle 20 to 30 minutes, in my opinion, being absolutely perfect. The film also acts as a strong and often hilarious satire on political powers, and the response efforts made during a major crisis. Lots of dialogue and big flashes of text add to the absurdity of these political powers trying to understand Godzilla. Shin Godzilla is the best reimagining of Godzilla to date, and the film that best understands the message from the original 1954 film. I adore it. Number 5, Your Name. Few anime films have captured the zeitgeist quite like Makoto Shinkai's romantic fantasy epic. The story of two star-crossed lovers caught in a body-switching loop becomes a beautiful exploration of love, fate, spirituality, adolescence, and tragedy. Your Name draws you in with its unbelievably gorgeous visuals, enriching soundtrack, and characters that I couldn't help but fall in love with the moment they showed up on screen. The care and detail put into crafting Taki and Mitsuha's story is staggering, with some of the most incredible animation that I've ever seen. The big twist in Your Name still resonates and shocks years after the movie was released, with the film coming together for a wonderfully sincere, emotional, and satisfying ending. Your Name will make you laugh, cry, and stun you with its world, and it remains a treat to this day. Number 4, Man of Steel. I'm sure that everyone's going to agree with this pick. Zack Snyder's Superman reboot is a film that I was mixed on initially, but as with Inception, Man of Steel is a movie that grew on me over time, to the point where I now genuinely love Man of Steel, and believe it to be incredibly underrated. With Man of Steel, Snyder brought a modernized Superman to the big screen in a way that hadn't been seen before. From the incredible opening sequence on Krypton, through to the big, action-packed, climactic battle in Metropolis, Man of Steel is a film that focuses on identity and purpose, while using the Superman origin to tell a first contact story with underlying commentary on Kal-El's status as an immigrant. Clark Kent spends the film trying to figure out where he belongs, while the film showcases key moments from his upbringing under the eye of Martha and Jonathan Kent, informing his perception of the world that he inhabits, and recognizing his unique value. The internal and external struggle Clark faces when he eventually comes face to face with General Zod and other surviving Kryptonians is both tragic and eventually inspiring when he accepts Earth as his home and the people of Earth being integral to his identity. Additionally, I've listened to Hans Zimmer's score for the movie more times than I can honestly remember. Man of Steel has a lot of beauty and emotion to it that I believe more people will accept over time. Number 3, La La Land. Damien Chazelle's throwback to the golden age of Hollywood musicals may partially wind up being remembered for its part in one of the greatest Oscar stuff-ups in history, and if you came to me and asked me whether Moonlight or La La Land deserve the Best Picture win, I'd absolutely agree with Moonlight's win. However, I can tell you now that I've rewatched La La Land considerably more than I've revisited Moonlight. La La Land clicked with me fairly instantly, with its beautiful performances from Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, its gorgeous visuals, and phenomenal music from Pasek and Paul and Justin Hurwitz. I adore the soundtrack, having lost count over how often I've listened to it, but it's La La Land's powerful ode to dreamers that has always resonated with me, mainly as someone who once moved overseas to chase my own dreams. When watching La La Land, there was comfort and peace in knowing that I wasn't alone or crazy for pursuing a passion, and it's that acceptance and exploration of the dream that makes La La Land such a personal and touching film, making it a film that I will always come back to. Number 2, Coco. No film throughout the 2010s has made me openly weep in a theater quite like Pixar's Coco. Directed by animation maestro Lee Unkrich, Coco is an incredibly emotional exploration of family, culture, and the afterlife. Miguel's journey to the land of the dead is packed full of gorgeously crafted and colorful animation with a deeply respectful embracement of Mexican culture. Everything laid out in the script builds to Coco's beautifully sincere and thoughtful ending that always manages to leave me in a puddle of tears. The songs, like Remember Me, are all beautifully written and performed, while never being shy to pull at the heartstrings. Coco never detracts from its universal portrayal of family, allowing it to thoughtfully transcend far beyond any one culture, once again reminding us how deeply connected we all are through themes and subject matter, despite different customs and tongues. Coco is a universally uniting film that embraces the best and purest parts of humanity, and I would encourage anyone wanting an emotionally enriching journey to seek out Coco. Number 1. Mad Max Fury Road. Of all the films released during the 2010s, few have redefined entire genres quite like Mad Max Fury Road. George Miller's return to the world of Max Rokitansky is one that could have very well been an absolute train wreck, following a troubled production with delays and reshoots. It's unbelievable that George Miller brought the film together in such glorious fashion. A soft reboot of the Mad Max series, Fury Road speeds off from its opening credits and rarely lets up, offering up 2 phenomenal hours of perfectly paced and executed vehicular action. Fury Road is essentially a 2-hour-long car chase, with some of the greatest practical stunt work ever put to screen, all fueled by Junkie XL's pulse-pounding score. On top of that, you've got a lean and focused story, built on liberation, that gives us all the information to keep everything moving. From Max being captured by the War Boys, to his encounter with Furiosa and the wives, Mad Max Fury Road never wastes any screen time, all the while managing to build and develop George Miller's world, packing it full of bizarre and wonderful characters like the Doof Warrior that could only come from his head. Mad Max Fury Road helped solidify Charlize Theron as an action star, while proving Tom Hardy to be a worthy successor to Mel Gibson as Max. Mad Max Fury Road remains a landmark piece of action craftsmanship that, in my opinion, remains an action masterpiece. And the thing is, the black and chrome version is even better. Mad Max Fury Road will deservedly so be studied and analysed for decades to come, with many filmmakers hoping to match its inventiveness and raw quality, and I can't wait to see what it inspires. And those are my picks for the best films of the 2010s, which I can't stress enough are purely subjective based on my experiences over the decade. It's been an unbelievable decade with some stunning achievements in film, so be sure to leave your rankings in the comment section below. All I can say is I can't wait to see what films we get over the 2020s. Thank you for watching, guys. If you want to see more videos just like this one, stay right here for your mono fix. Bye, guys.